Hello there, a very good morning and welcome to another edition of the Talk of the Town. Joining us this morning is Professor Buddhi Marambe, Senior Professor at the University of Peradeniya. A very good morning, Professor, and welcome to the show.
Very good morning.
Professor, Sri Lanka's agricultural sector, also known as the backbone of Sri Lanka's economy, well, at least since independence, maybe even before that, since the time of the kings actually, was dealt a serious blow with an inept fertilizer policy that tried to transition completely into organic fertilizer. And after all of this suffering that the farmers in Sri Lanka had to go through, now they don't have water to farm with. The farmers have suffered so much, and really the solution of the government is to pay compensation. That seems to be the default solution always when agricultural lands are destroyed by government action or incidents like droughts and water shortages. Provide compensation. Professor, firstly, the government is trying to paint a picture that this is an extreme condition, this is an extreme drought that we're facing, and the government has nothing to do about it. That is why these farmers don't have water. Is this really true?
What we have to understand is, in a normal year, July, August, September are the months that are generally considered as dry periods. This is the usual scenario, especially in the dry zone of Sri Lanka. I'm sure you must have felt, during our younger days, for example, August is the month which we call, that's the month to fly kites. Why? Because there's no rainfall. And that's the time people find time to play football, LA, and cricket in the paddy fields that have already been harvested. That has been the usual scenario. So you have to expect a dry period, especially in the dry zone of Sri Lanka, because of the normal situation. But this year there has been something different to that, because the intensity of dryness has increased, mainly because of natural phenomena. What we really call as El Nino effect, which usually comes up in about once in 3 to 7 years. The last El Nino impact that we felt was in 2015 and 2016. Of course, it just went in up to 2017 also because of other changes in the weather and the environmental conditions. So this is a normal dry period, but then it has been intensified due to other naturally occurring phenomena. That's what has happened.
But Professor, at least speaking of the effect that this had on the farmers and all of that. Well, and also, Professor, you said this is the normal dry period. We've experienced the El Nino effect. Was this predicted? Is this predictable?
Yes, it's predictable, but there are agencies that are kind of mandated or have the capacity to do such predictions. It's not in Sri Lanka, but in the global scale.
But the Met Department did predict that it's going to be a dry season and there is not going to be rain until the month of October.
Yeah, no, this is how it happened. In March, everyone knew that there is a El Nino alert, but the probability of occurrence was somewhere between 50 to 60%.
That's quite probable.
That's quite probable at that time. So actually, the Met Department have informed, according to them, they claim that they have informed all the relevant officers, for example.
The stakeholders.
Yeah, when you say stakeholders, even farmers come into that picture.
But they weren't informed.
They weren't informed at that time, because even the officers were informed. I don't think the message got passed through in such a way that the farmers will start feeling it. But in May, they issued a circular saying that there's a 62% probability that there will be an El Nino impact. Actually, even the United Nations World Meteorological Organization, they announced that there's a 90% chance that El Nino is in on 4th July. That's how it started. So by that time, even, you see, all these predictions are based on probability. Right? So it's about, when you say 90% chance, they even cannot come and tell people there's 100% chance, because anything can go around with weather, right? So, but then when you say 90% chance,
that's pretty probable.
It is probable. It's in. That's what they say. It has already greeted us.
So, Professor, one final question. Do you think we could have done more to prepare for this? How ill-prepared were we to face this situation?
Preparedness is always good. If there was if there's adequate preparedness, I also do agree that there would have been a much better scenario right now. What I see, I'm not trying to find fault, but due to various issues, the Department of Agriculture especially announced a situation that we should move for other field crops rather than growing paddy, because Department of Agriculture, based on the information given by the Department of Meteorology, predicted and they expected a relatively dry period. So
But farmers went ahead and grew paddy.
farmers also went in and grew paddy because that's a natural scenario also. We have to
So,
understand.
Professor, it seems that there is a lot of miscommunication, a lot of lack of coordination among these stakeholders. And really, at the end of the day, based on what you spoke of and what you revealed today, it is not really one person's fault, one agency's fault. It's just lack of communication, lack of coordination that has led to the situation that we're in today.
We simply cannot say no to that because there's always a coordination issue in Sri Lanka when the decisions are made and the decisions are implemented on ground. This is something that we have to overcome. I mean, we have learned a bitter lesson right now. Let's start learning from it and make sure there's proper coordination among all agencies.
And this definitely, Professor, is a good time for us to change because with the situation in Sri Lanka, we have almost lost everything and there is nothing more to lose. So the only way going forward is to change our ways, to improve our coordination and communication, and hopefully build a better country for the future.
Plan, implement, and monitor the implementation.
Thank you very much, Professor Buddhi Marambe from the University of Peradeniya. Thank you very much to all our listeners out there. It's back to the Morning Fix on Yes 101.